Is that when you had officer involved shooting?
Yes, that was my first one. We ended up doing an investigation. It was and this is long since done. Investigation. The suspect was beating his dad, so he was wanted for elder abuse. And he went in and he asked, and he said, "Hey, I need to file a report on my son. But by the way, he makes pipe bombs, cricket bombs, makes his own firearms, kind of like sovereign citizen-ish, to where like just anti-law enforcement." Obviously, anti-law enforcement, anti-law, anti-government.
Is
that
gang
type of
affiliated or like lone wolf kind of shit?
No, prior military. Yeah. Prior military.
Just military guys, I tell you what. Can't trust them.
Yeah, just off his rocker, and it was just one of those things. Just thought the world was after him. And ultimately, it was like it came down to the gang section to say, hey, you know what? We're going to make the stop on him. We're going to try to lure him away from his house, which we ultimately did. Our special investigations unit lured him away from the house. A friend hit the suspect's friend, said, hey, you know what, I ran out of gas. Can you come on up? And then ultimately, he's obviously paranoid and things of that nature. And then he actually does leave his house. And we were going to pull him over at a park and ride, just good backdrop, that type of thing. Ends up leaving his house. He pulls into the park and ride. At the time, at that day, I didn't have my partner. So our gang sergeant at the time said, hey, you know what, you're going to have to be the perimeter more or less and stop from anybody getting in the park and ride. You don't have a partner because the partner officer was going to get out with a rifle, just knowing that he made handguns and had possibly had bombs, that type of thing. He pulls into the park and ride. He does a U-turn around a bus, and he just sees Congo line of gang cars, just ding, 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 ding. So then he floors it.
What was he driving?
Like a red Ford Explorer. He floors it. We had the Bearcat at the time, and the image is still in my mind. A good friend of mine tried to hit him with the Bearcat just to stop him from getting out. Missed by a few feet. He ultimately drives up an embankment out of the park and ride. Makes a left. I see this, but then I see officers, detectives that were kind of just like holding back citizens. They're all crossing the street. So a few citizens, a few detectives were crossing the street. He's up and out of this park and ride, and I see him. He's making a left, and I hear the engine start revving. He's trying to run them over, or at least evading, and they're going to be a result of that. So I get in my car, I throw it and drive. I ram him, push him into a wall, so he doesn't end up running him over. And then from there, he just raises a firearm. It ended up being a homemade shotgun. Raises the firearm and just starts pulling the trigger. Fortunately, nothing came out. Through fast forward, it they ended up saying like, "Hey, this was an operable, firearm," but for whatever reason, it wasn't going off. Thank God. Yeah. And ultimately, officer involved shooting ensued. Suspect was deceased on scene, and then pretty much from there cleared the car. As we get him out of the car, cricket bomb, pipe bomb, that type of thing comes out.
Did any of them go off or?
No. Fortunately, none of them went off right then and there. Once the scene was rendered safe, we brought our San Diego Fire in, and they detonated the device on scene. They were such high order, they used like bomb blankets and bomb things there just to set them off there. Yeah. Just because they were such high order.
Yeah. Do you know what was in them?
I think it was black powder. They ended up like saving a couple of our vehicle doors because when they blew them off, it just. Yeah. I have like in my old gang car, there was like a baseball size hole in the door and stuff like that. Yeah. But fortunately, none of them never went off. By the good grace of God, the gun never went off. It's unfortunate the outcome for sure. But yeah.
Do you know what his background was militarily?
No, I know he was a Marine. I don't know what the background was.
Yeah, man, that's wild.
Yeah, he just slowly got just kind of inundated. Just the anti-government, the anti-this, the no license plate on the car. I can't register through the state. Just totally sovereign citizen type.
Yeah, wow. As far as your involvement in that, I mean, what is there a typical time that it takes to work through that, or does it just totally vary?
It totally varies. Mental health is being pushed pushed widely now. Just departments just kind of seeing it's a thing.
I guess I meant like investigation-wise.
Oh, investigation-wise. It's going to go, so since it happened outside of the city of San Diego and the city of San Diego paralleled the investigation, it took a little longer. But generally speaking, I mean, between interviews and surveillance and stuff like that, it's going to be about a couple of months.
Yeah.
A year later, once an officer-involved shooting happens, you'll get a clearance letter from the district attorney's office saying, hey, you were under investigation for homicide, more or less.
Yeah.
However, we deem this a justifiable homicide due to the fact that the suspect pointed a firearm at you.
Yeah. The instant that happens, do they have a protocol where they say, hey, you're in an officer-involved shooting, we're taking you off the line, so to speak? Like, do they take your gun from you? Like, do they do all that kind of shit, or?
Take your gun, no, but it's going to be you're off duty admin time.
Yeah.
Any officer involved shooting, you always read in the paper, paid on administrative leave. Yeah, so that's going to be days off at home, minding your business, and maybe you just go back and forth for interviews, that type of thing.
Yeah.
They will take your gun because they'll do ballistics on the gun because they want to know where the bullets went, and every bullet needs to be accounted for.
Yeah.
So they'll take your gun in that aspect, but it's not, hey, turn in your badge and gun for a week.
Yeah.
It's nothing like that.
Yeah.
But they'll even issue another one if you want one.
Oh, I gotcha.
I have enough, so I am good.
Can you say how many times you shot him, or how many times it took to neutralize the threat? Can you?
Yeah, I ended up having to shoot through the car door, so a full magazine.
Oh, wow.
At the time,
Yeah.
he laid down, but I could see the shotgun was still pointing at me. So ultimately, I had to shoot through the vehicle door.
Yeah. How did you handle that? Was it something that affected or impacted you significantly, or did you compartmentalize it? How did you get through it?
Yeah, friends would be the biggest thing. Yeah, they're going to make you do the psychological debriefs. That's just semantics. You're not going to. I don't know if anybody that really says everything at the psychological debrief or any critical incident debrief. It's the friends after that you hang out with that legitimately check on you, that legitimately care and stuff like that. But I think with this one, it was just more of like hey, that's, you pointed a firearm at me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You had manifestos and cricket bombs and pipe bombs. So is it probably a little easier to digest for sure. It's not something I wanted to do, but it's just,
Yeah, it's part of the job. I mean, I guess, was it something that you had a hard time with at first?
No.
All right, so
Just work out more.
Yeah. During that 3 or almost 3 year period, was that the only officer involved shooting in that?
Yeah, that was the that one. And then shortly thereafter, I ended up getting the Medal for Valor for that. Not for the shooting, but just the fact that I rammed him with the pipe bombs, knowing what could happen.
Yeah.
So I want to make it explicitly clear that the Valor was for that.
Yeah.
And then from there, I ended up putting my application in a K9 and got picked up in K9.
Yeah. During the gang unit stuff, were there any other stories that are super memorable or worth sharing of cool arrests or cases that you worked?
Yeah, I remember there was one. I remember I call it the pursuit of a lifetime because I always joke like with K9.
Yeah.
We'll get into it for sure. It's just make sure your dog's ready. You're gonna get that call of a lifetime, and you don't want to be the guy that says, I don't know if I can do this or I haven't seen this, right? And this was that pursuit of a lifetime. Cocaine out of the window. He's holding the bottom of a Ziploc bag, and it's just your hood, your windshields are all just getting just cocaine just spread right across. He's throwing guns out the window. He's on the phone, trying to dump more guns. It ended up being like a 30, 45-minute pursuit, like way out in East County.
Wow.
He sprints into his house and goes into an apartment. My partner at the time, like having like legitimate conversations, like, hey, so what are we gonna do? It's like long enough of a pursuit just to just to talk back.
Was
and
it high
forth.
speed?
Yeah, high speed, over 100 miles an hour. Just taking this freeway, taking that freeway, pretending he's going to exit, and then flying off. And it was just a typical pursuit.
Yeah.
And I just remember just looking over at my partner at the time, and he's still with the department, so I'll refrain from saying his name. But it was just one of those like looking at him and just kind of like,
this is happening.
this is real, man.
Yeah.